So that means 3, 2, 1.
What is
We're
up?
live.
What is up? So, bro.
Holy shit, it's been a while.
Yeah, too bad you've done nothing of interest since then. Neither one of us have done anything interesting since then.
Our first episode of 2021 is all the way in January 20th.
Yeah.
So I will be sharing the story of why our show has not been going on because I was all prepped and
so usually our podcast goes we say what's up, and then we each share an anecdote because we're two guys who love NLP. We live NLP. That's what we do. And this is a slightly advanced, just slightly deeper pool than the kiddie pool or the wading pool. We are people who assume you know a lot of stuff because we live it and love it, and we hope that you do too. And so our show usually goes, we give an anecdote and a quote about our life or our work and something interesting and how it relates to NLP, etc. Today, we've both suggested to each other we're going to shine that because we're just going to talk about our lives, which are, of course, filled with NLP. Anyways, so because I don't really know too much about it, and I want to know about it.
Where the hell I've been.
Yeah, well, somebody had to be the cool guy and get what all the kids are into nowadays. So
I know. It's peer pressure, man.
Why don't you just go ahead and let everybody know where you've been, what you've been up to?
So I will start with the best laid plans. You know, like it was 2020. We had Christmas and it was nice and like small, and I'm getting prepped and excited for 2021. And as you and I have talked about, you know, the new year, it's not real. Time's not real. Calendars aren't real. Months aren't real. Years aren't even real. They're all made up concepts. But I always sort of look at the new year as like, if you're going to pick a time to examine your life and your year and what you're doing, might as well be then. So I'm all prepped and excited and ready to go to like hit the ground running in 2021. And then I got fucking COVID, man. And literally the symptoms showed up on January 1st.
Nice. I broke my wrist once on January 1st, but that's a lot different.
So, I mean, yeah, the moral of the story. So here's what I learned. COVID's a hoax. Perpetrated by the cannibal elite. Whatever.
Yeah.
And you know, listen, masks and vaccines, dude, that's how the Nazis got started. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
No, so short version, that was the sickest I've ever been in my fucking life, dude. I don't want to pour gasoline on people's anxiety about this disease because it is such a weird thing that it hits.
Your wife barely noticed it.
That's what I'm saying is it hits people so differently. My kid and my wife had it, and it was like it didn't even slow them down, like barely nothing. And I had it, and I had over 101-degree fever for 9 days straight. I've had cancer and cancer treatment, and I've had a handful of like nasty flus in my day. It was in a category its own, man. Like I slept 16 to 18 hours a day. I wasn't even like, give me some soup and some tea and let's watch stuff. I was just dead, dude. I was so exhausted. My body ached. I never ended up going to the hospital. And the only reason for that is that it didn't really get in my lungs. And my fever never got above 103, but it was just like, I've never felt so sick that it felt like my brain was sick. Like my vocabulary was gone. I couldn't formulate sentences. I was full blown hallucinating a couple of times where like I would sort of wake up with an entire fantasy going on in my head about what was happening. This is the part where I don't know if this is just me subjectively. I mean, obviously it's all subjective, but I'm not saying this is a symptom of COVID, but it was also really emotionally dark and heavy. Like I had a lot of anxiety and just like dark. It didn't help that the fucking democracy that we live in was collapsing while it was going on, and I'm like peripherally hearing news about all this stuff. But yeah, no fucking joke, man. Like it took me 9 days of fever till the fever broke, but I was like literally 2 weeks that I was completely out of commission. And like I say, I don't want to pour gasoline on people's anxiety, but I will tell you, if you can avoid getting this, do, because it fucking sucks. At least for some people, it does. I mean, keep in mind, I'm the kind of person who, like, I've learned not to push myself through sicknesses. Like you like listen to your body and rest when you need to rest. But I came from a family where, like, I grew up on a farm where if you have the flu, who fucking cares? There are trucks that need to be loaded right now, and there's nobody else that's going to do it. I literally remember seeing my dad throw up behind a truck and then come back around and keep loading trees onto the truck. So, like, I don't blow these things out of proportion typically. But this was like nothing else I've ever felt, for sure. To tie it in and make it sort of an anecdote to NLP and hypnosis, I will say that the turning point, I think, was about 12 days in. It was when I was like just starting to feel better physically, but I was dealing with all the emotional crap. So I took a rather hefty dose of edible cannabis, and had a profound meditation that day. I probably took too much because I think I was high for like 36 hours. Yeah. But what I ended up doing,
you hadn't been high for 12 days anyway.
No. Yeah. Complete detox of everything. I mean, no caffeine, no nothing. But the thing that ended up turning it around was when I started asking the question, if this sickness was about something symbolic or metaphorical, if there was a lesson in here for me, what is it? What am I supposed to learn from this? And truly, for 12 days, I did not have the capacity to ask that question. I couldn't even like think clearly. But when I finally got, it was like, I want to get out of this as quickly as possible. And so when I started engaging my unconscious in that way, stuff started coming up to the surface. And it was deep stuff about like self-forgiveness and about still using pressure and anxiety to get myself to move. Because a lot of my anxiety was like, is my business going to fall apart if I'm gone for 2 freaking weeks? Because I couldn't see any clients or even stay in touch with people. So when I started digging into those lessons and talking to the part and talking to my unconscious and healing, that is a moment when it turned. Like I say, before then, physically, I was starting to feel a little better, but emotionally, it was awful. And that was the point when even physically I started feeling a lot better. So definitely not suggesting you can think your way out of this stuff, because for 12 days, I wasn't there. Like it was everything I could do to just be like, stay alive, like keep breathing, go back to sleep, eat a little food. But in the effort to walk my talk, that was the moment when I was like, all right, it's time to start using these tools. And that simple question of, what do I need to learn from this? What if it was happening for a reason? What would that reason be? And it brought up a bunch of stuff for me about self-forgiveness for things from the past, and walking my talk too was a big part of that. With the lessons I got about it.
Nice. Well, glad to see you on the other side here.
It feels so good. Like this week, Monday is the first day that I kind of went back to like a normal schedule. Right. So that was the 18th.
Isn't it amazing about how great everything feels and is when you're not sick?
Yeah. Yes.
How
yes.
like
to exercise again.
Just it's going like, outside the house and being able to look at the sky that's bright and not want to die or not have, you're just like, whoa, everything's really fucking awesome all the time. I just,
Yeah.
wow. Need to not
For
have
Christmas this year, my boys gave me gymnastics rings, which I set up and have been exercising now
nice.
every day for like 6 days in a row. And oh my God, it's so nice to just move again and start to
Those
feel
are awesome.
more energy.
I can get a set.
Yeah.
I have a TRX. Those are great. I love those.
Oh, dude, gymnastics rings are like, so you can get such a universal upper body workout with those things. You can hit almost everything.
You know what a TRX is, right?
Yeah, but it has like bands and
it's just like it has handles instead of the
handles, right? It's not the rings. Yeah,
I like those.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. Yeah. Well, like I said, congratulations. Glad to see you on the other side. I've known 1, 2, 3, well, 4, counting your wife, who've had it, and everybody else seemed fairly okay with it. They're like, it was mild.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. So good.
Well, there's a thing called a cytokine storm. Have you heard of that?
Is that a new X-Men?
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. It does sound like that, doesn't it? I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV. And as I was researching this stuff, apparently the cytokine storm is the reason why in 1918 in the Spanish flu, one of the demographics of people that were hit hardest were like young men in their 20s and early 30s. And as I understand it, it's basically the stronger your immune system is in certain circumstances, the immune system will kind of get in a feedback loop and it'll start attacking yourself. And I suspect, I have no way to prove this, but I suspect that that's what I was experiencing, which is a nice way to pat myself on the back because I do take care of myself, man. Right. Like people are all like, if you have a good immune system, this isn't going to hit you. I take vitamin D every fucking day. Right. I supplement, I eat right, I go to sleep, I drink water, I exercise, I do all the shit. And this kicked my ass. So all those people out there that are like COVID only affects whatever bullshit.
Right.
Bullshit.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know. Yeah.
So yeah, don't get it.
Yeah. Wear masks, motherfuckers.
Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah.
Any other insights from the edge?
No, those are the big ones. I mean, thank fucking atheismo for the women in my life, because like I cannot imagine. I guess the one shift in my perspective, because I never thought the fucking thing was a hoax, like but I guess the one shift that I did have was I was imagining first people to get it, and the first when doctors started seeing it and being like, this is weird, or getting it and being like, listen, I'm fucking telling you, this is not the flu. Like whatever I just had, this is something else. And I just started like kind of changing the narrative of going like, oh, I can see how people started taking this seriously at some point. And then all the other people who have not had exposure to it are like, it's not a big deal.
Right. Well, I think
can be a big deal.
It's not a hoax, but America's response to it is a fucking joke.
Yeah. Amen. Yes.
Okay. Well, welcome back to the land of the living.
Thank you.
I'm
happy to be back.
What there is of it. So in the last time since I've seen you.
Oh, yes.
Did you get my book yet?
Fabulous. Congratulations,
Did you get my book yet?
I don't have a copy yet.
Well, I wasn't hassling you about it because you were dying, but now that you're not dying, I'm going to say, get my book like today.
Fair enough.
So, for a book.
Dude.
Easy, dude.
What an accomplishment.
It's like, that's a book. I'm really proud of it and stoked on it, and I'm happy about it and all that stuff. And
what's the response, Ben? Have you had people giving feedback and stuff?
My friends love it, but so people I've sent it to, again, it's like published on Amazon. It's not like there's a publisher out there promoting it, and there's no bookstores to stick it in anyways. So my friends like it. Eventually, some other people who I don't know, will check it out. But my anecdote, I'm fucking good sometimes. My anecdote is about.
Don't dislocate your shoulder there.
Yeah, I'm too busy jerking myself off to pat myself on the back. So I woke up 2 days ago. So I had sent it to a bunch of people, one of whom is a man named Richard Rassa, whose email I have because he works for or is the head of, I know he's not like an employee, but I think he's either like the head publisher or something of Hilaritas Press. Hilaritas Press, who are the people who are currently publishing Cosmic Trigger 1 and 2.
Robert Anton Wilson, yes.
Right.
Robert Anton Wilson,
right? So I had just sent him kind of in the mass, whatever. I was like, oh, maybe he cares. And he got back to me a couple of days ago to say that he had posted in a Robert Anton Wilson group that I'm in, but I've been off of Facebook, and honestly, I've been out of a lot of the groups because of the last year or two, everything just got turned into Trump versus not Trump, and we're not talking about Robert Anton Wilson anymore. And then I'd be like, this post is about Donald Trump. That says nothing about Robert Anton Wilson. And then some guys like, well, Robert Anton Wilson was about reality tunnels, and this is the reality tunnel, so technically it's about Robert. I was like, no, fuck all that. So I just got out of there. But he posted to the group and said, hey, guy, I don't really know him, but he seems like a nice guy. He wrote this book, and it seems pretty interesting. Maybe check it out. And he said he got a couple people back. Like one's like, whoa, because it's called Rage of Reason. I love the cover so much. It's called Rage of Reason, a relentless critique of the Bible, which is what it is. And people were like, yeah, well, relentless critique of the Bible. That's been done, man. How's that any different from the 500 other books that have done that? And so he wrote me an email. It says, hey, I posted to the group, and I got a couple, some people liked it, and some people were like, how's this any different? Why should I care? And I was like, okay, cool. Well, so I wrote him back a response of what I thought would be that, because one guy's like, well, isn't critiquing the Bible like shooting fish in a barrel? I was like, I could see that. So I will read what I wrote, and then I will read his response, and then someone else's response to that, because it's all still very NLP-ish.
All right, cool.
So mostly I just said, yes, critiquing the Bible for non-believers could be like preaching to the choir, or shooting fish in a barrel, or perhaps preaching to fish in a barrel. But the fact remains that the biblical mind virus is more virulent and prevalent than ever. The time is now to take action to wake up society from this 2,000 to 4,000 year nightmare. My effort to take that action and help others to do the same is this book, Rage of Reason. In school, I studied the Bible for 7 years, so I know where all the nastiest bits are located. Do you know the places where it says women are not permitted to speak in church? How to kidnap and rape children? What races of people you have to keep as slaves forever? What cultures you must eradicate from the face of the earth to be seen as good in God's eyes? Which people Jesus specifically says he wasn't here to save? What sin he will never forgive ever? And so on, right? And I said, yeah, sure.
Nice bullet point list of like cool shit in the book, by the way.
Right. So I said, sure, the Bible is bullshit, but would you like to have all the evil crap in the Bible laid out by topic and quoted chapter and verse so that you can easily access that information to fully deconvert anyone you know who is still suffering with this spiritual malady? And would you like to have it all done in a straightforward and humorous way? Well, I know I sure did, so I wrote this book. Here's just some of the chapters. Entrapment in the Garden of Eden. The top 10 things wrong with the 10 Commandments. The first murder. Circumcision can suck my dick. Take this Job and shove him. Craptism. Hell. Is it me you're looking for? Prejudice, and from Genesis to genocide, just to name a few. So I wrote him that, and he was, again, so kind enough to then post to the group again. And he says, a couple days ago, I posted news of a new book from Raw fan Morgan Bennett. Morgan just sent me a copy of the book, and so far I've read a couple chapters. I think he did an excellent job, which, like, if that was it, I'd be like, yay.
Yeah.
He has what I think is an appropriate snarky attitude throughout, I told Morgan that a couple people wondered if sample chapters were available, or if he could give me a table of contents. At first, he wrote a short synopsis of a chapter. I liked what he wrote, but I suggested that most Raw fans would read that and go, yeah, we know that part too. So with that in mind, he sent me the following, and then he copied and pasted what I just said to you about the bullet points and all the things.
Yeah.
So again, I'm like, wow, because this is the guy currently publishing Robert Anton Wilson's books. And he posted the cover and the back cover, which I'm particularly fond of, because the back cover, my author picture, is me on my first year of Catholic school when I knew that this was all bullshit. So
yeah.
But then what I really wanted to talk about, other than like, A, I'm stoked the book got out there, B, that somebody seems to give a shit, somebody I respect seems to give a shit and is spreading the word, which is all I can hope for. But as with many Robert Anton Wilson groups and many of the things that other people post, I've seen this a lot in Robert Anton Wilson groups. Somebody wrote as a comment, isn't all of this just an exercise in pointing out the limits of other people's reality tunnels while deeming yours as superior, when the entire point of Ra's work is to do the truly hard work of seeing the limitations of one's own tunnel and realizing that it's built upon assumptions and premises just as faulty as theirs, right? Prometheus Rising, even in the very first chapter, states that pretty explicitly. Feels like by wasting time writing this at all, he's completely missed the point of Ra's work, which is to work on expanding your own reality tunnel instead. To waste time pointing out the inferiorities of someone else's reality tunnel, which in turn builds up yours as superior, prevents you from seeing the limitations of your own BS belief system, and thus misses the point completely. So I would like to get your comment on that before I read you my response to that.
So the first thought that came to mind is one of my favorite clips of Terrence McKenna, another one of our favorite people, where he said something to the effect of, the problem that happens in culture today is we are no longer allowed to point out the difference between shit and shinola.
Yeah, totally. Right?
And the thought that because everyone is living in their own reality tunnel, that no reality tunnel is better than another. Or let's take better out of it, because I understand the limitations of that word. Let's just say more effective or less effective for a specific purpose or intent. Right. So let's say your intent is to live a happy life. There are some reality tunnels that work better for that purpose than others. So to make the argument that Robert Anton Wilson was claiming that there's no such thing as there's no shit in shinola.
Right.
Fucking stupid. Right. And if somebody's missed the point here,
thank you.
I think
So that's where I came from. And I wanted to respond in a very measured and calm way. And I wrote back to this person. Because again, like I can only assume, and I didn't say this, but like I remember my first beer. You know what I mean? Like, I remember when I learned that everything is everything, and also no judgment, but he's also judging me for my worldview and saying his worldview is better than mine. But we'll just leave that aside because I didn't want to be combative and point out how he is doing what he's claiming that I'm doing. But so my response
is one of the sleight of mouth patterns, though.
So my response to this guy was this. As an avid lover of Raw myself, I hear what you're saying, and I would like you to know that I'm a hypnotherapist by trade. And that means that for a living, I help people out of reality tunnels they themselves deem unresourceful. In my work, I help people release deep-seated guilt and shame and trauma and insecurities and fear. I do not push my non-biblical reality tunnel on them at all. In fact, if religion is not their problem, I use it as a powerful lever to achieve their goals. But alas, much of the unconscious guilt adults have in this world is crammed into children's minds when they're too young to have developed a critical faculty. And people end up feeling bad about not believing in something they're supposed to believe in, especially if the threat of eternal damnation is involved. So I took all the knowledge I learned in 7 years of Catholic school and I put it to good use. In this book, I mainly point out what the Bible itself says, quoting chapter and verse. There's so much misogyny, racism, hate speech, and calls for genocide in the Bible, it could fill a book. So I wrote a book pointing it all out and commenting on it snarkily, aka critically and humorously. One of the precepts of NLP is to respect others' model of the world, which I agree there needs to be more of. And at the same time, I do not respect the model of the world that says to actively oppress, murder, or ethnically cleanse someone else. I say several times in the book that I don't care what you believe. It's not my place to say. My problem is when believers demand that I believe it as well. I do not care if you believe Star Wars really happened and that Obi-Wan died for your sins. Just keep it out of the government, the schools, and off your children's bodies. Some ridiculous things need to be ridiculed, particularly religion. Some reality tunnels need to be taken down a peg or two, especially the ones that promote spiritual fascism, bigotry, racism, and genocide. If not, then you might as well just roll over now for whatever strongman decides to take your life as his own. Ra fought against many a reality tunnel that he thought was harming humanity. And he did it from a place of wry love for everyone, as do I. And of course, the guy responded to a bunch of other things in the thread, but never to that. I mean, so that basically says it all. And then Richard, the guy who said it, he's like, Ross certainly made, the guy who I wrote to, who posted it, wrote to me on the side, Ross certainly made judgments about people in reality tunnels. His saving grace was probably that he was never completely certain about his judgments and willing to reconsider. Right? He said, I hope the post to help you out. Don't take any negative comments too seriously. That's most often people just showing off. Yeah, I mean, look, I can. So anyways, it was a fun little journey into like expression, projection, trying to communicate, and someone telling me that you saying that reality tunnels are bad or good is bad. But there are no bad and good, but you're bad. But so
yeah.
And that's what I got.
When I write a review for your book, and I can say this now having not read it because I read your blog on which it was based.
Which it is, yeah.
What I would say is, who's this book for? And yes, I think it could be very valuable for someone who's looking for ammunition or a strategy to help deconvert other people. However, I will say that does already exist. So for me, what do I think is the biggest benefit of your book? Most people are not aware of how deep the blind spots around religion go. Like the programming of religion is something that if you grew up religious and you've kind of outgrown it, that's one thing. But even people who weren't exposed to it, just living in the culture, there are these principles and ideas from religion that get planted in the unconscious, and taking time to rip those weeds out, taking the time to deprogram yourself by having the ridiculousness pointed out to you systematically and humorously. Humor is a reframe. Humor is hypnosis.
Yeah.
Making somebody think about something and laugh about it and laugh at the ridiculousness and the snarkiness. That is a strategy. That's an NLP.
I think that actually sets it apart from the more academic people who have to use proper words and, I don't want to upset anybody. Right. Like this whole thing is like, I'm upset. This is ridiculous. Yeah. And so
agreed. So I think of it as something for people who want to clean out the religious bullshit that's still stuck in your unconscious.
Right.
That's who this book, I think, is for, from my perspective.
On the Amazon page, the first paragraph says, this book makes light of all the dark parts in the Bible religious people willfully ignore. The first paragraph says, whether you're an atheist, a skeptic, a lapsed Catholic, a recovering Jew, a freethinker looking to deconvert your loved one, or someone who wants to finally extinguish that nagging doubt in the back of your mind that says you should believe the crazy stuff your parents told you when you were a kid, this book is for you.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And I think that's important. If you are NLP and you really want to learn how to expand your model of the world, which makes you better at NLP, it makes you better at being more influential, at being better at respecting other people's models of the world. That actually reminds me of another point I was going to make about the term respecting others' models of the world. I understand why they use the word respect. And I actually think that's a good word to use. And it needs to be clarified that what it means is almost more acknowledging that other models of the world exist. Because you were like, I don't respect a model of the world that supports genocide and all these kinds of things. Well, from the way I interpret,
they think they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's what it is.
How the Nazis were like, we're doing the right thing. Yeah,
that is respecting another person's model of the world, is going, oh, I see how you put your model of the world together, and I acknowledge that that is your model of the world.
Right.
Respecting their model of the world is about when you're trying to influence someone, not coming in and just saying, no, you're wrong, I'm right. It's going, oh, this is, like you said, if religion is not the problem with a client that you're working for, not only will you not try to eradicate it, you'll utilize it. Like,
out of it.
I've had my clients sit down and talk to Jesus.
Yeah, like Jesus is fucking, like if it's no problem, then Jesus is, I'm just gonna go talk to that guy because he's the one that's got you here. Why would I kill him when you're like, he's your best buddy? You know what I mean? But if he's not.
And I've taken hippies through journeys where they end up talking to Buddha or whatever archetype represents something deep for them. Use it. The thing that most people don't understand is how deeply limiting and damaging and toxic most religious beliefs are, especially ones that you sucked up when you were a little kid.
Right. And when you like mistake a myth for reality.
Yeah.
When you're like, okay, there's some stories, cool, get what you want. I don't care. It's just another movie I don't want to watch or a book I don't want to read. It's great. But when you start to say this really happened and I'm really going to hell because someone really died for my sins and I really that's when you start to go, ugh, and that's when the stuff gets in. But then you go out in the world and you're like, that's not real. But some part inside of you is rolling with that. So I think that guy didn't know how to respond when I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, he called me an atheist. I never refer to myself as an atheist. I'm anti-theist, but like, I don't define myself as what I'm not. And I can have any number of beliefs as we've gone over many, many times. But he couldn't respond because I was like, and I didn't even attack him on his blatant, hypocrisy or contradictions of his own attack on me, was saying his worldview is better than my worldview, even though he's telling me there's no such thing as one or the other. And that's what I really wanted to talk about. Was it's easy to go to the NLP place and go, well, then fuck, nothing matters. So why not just kill everybody? Why not just rape everybody or steal and destroy? Because if there's nothing's better than anything else, and that's what people think atheists are.
Right.
That's what
moral relativism.
There's nothing matters anymore. And it's like, well, no, some things are better than others. And something that says you are a sinner, you're born a sinner, and you can only be redeemed by the death of an innocent person. I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was so I'm proud of the book, stoked on Rasa, the guy Rasa, like promoting. He put it in 5 or 6 different Robert Anton Wilson groups, which is all that I could ever hope for. But then the guy's response, which was this morning, and it really got me to write a even keel sort of, no, check this out, bro. This is what I do, because he doesn't watch our podcast. He doesn't know me. He called me an atheist multiple times in some other things. I'm like, I never said that. I never said any of what you're saying. You're just projecting on me what you think you know about. Like, I remember my first, hit of acid when I realized that everything is a metaphor for everything else, and therefore nothing means anything. And like, but then you have to go, and I'm choosing to make some kind of sense out of this.
Correct.
A sense that's free to be shifted and moved. Like Russ said, he didn't really hold on to it. He was up for consideration, but it's like freedom of belief is what we're talking about.
Hang on, buddy. Sam. Oh, you got to go.
Let me see. Green? Oh, never mind. Go ahead. Someone's knocking on my door.
So, Sam Harris wrote a book called The Moral Landscape, which I think you and I have talked about before. I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast, but very briefly for anybody who's still listening at this point, one of the claims that he makes, is that there's a term called non-overlapping magisteria, and it's this idea that science has no business making statements or evaluations about morality, that should be left to the context of philosophers and religion. And his claim is that, in fact, we will never find satisfactory answers to the questions about morality and ethics and how to live in a way that promotes the greatest amount of well-being for everyone and all living things, even until we bring a scientific rigor. There's this belief that like pure science leads to like Nazism or something like that. Like that if you just examine things through that lens, you will end up with life has no value and all this kind of stuff. But he uses this metaphor of the moral landscape, meaning, I don't know, should I wait for you? It feels a little weird.
On my door. Not now. Unless if you're talking here, someone on the flight.
Listen in. This is live.
Okay, so can I move them and put them back up?
All right, I'm gonna mute him. He's on mute. Oh, that sounded heated. I got left all by myself. Oh, okay. I unmuted. You can unmute yourself.
I'm like, I'm not here. I'm not now. Not now. Not now. I'm busy. Not now. And I'm like, it's a fucking like, what the fuck do you want? He's like, I thought you were talking to someone else.
Jehovah's Witnesses?
No, it's like I was trying to do something good and useful outside, but I'm like, bro, I'm fucking, when I say not now, stop knocking on my door.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
So moral landscape. Okay. So we'll cut this part out.
Okay.
So the moral landscape, he uses this analogy that he said, you can't think about right and wrong and good and bad in terms of a binary. There are some things that are always good and there are some things that are always bad. He uses the analogy of like diet, right? So we cannot say that there is one right diet for everyone, but that doesn't, just because we can't say that doesn't mean that science has no business examining health and how your diet affects things. We know that there are peaks and valleys of healthy eating, and there are some things that are farther up on those peaks, and McDonald's is all the way down at the fucking bottom of those valleys. And he makes the claim that that's what the moral landscape looks like. There are many peaks and many valleys, and that to map it out requires a kind of scientific rigor to go in and ask questions about what does it mean to support the well-being of all living creatures. If that is the goal,
right.
It's such a good book, and it really counters that point about moral relativism and the idea that without religion, everything is fair game and it's all the same. It's not the same. Clearly, it's not the same.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I've said. I was stricken by his thing. It was like, I mean, I get how you can misunderstand Robert Anton Wilson like that, but then what? Then you're actually doing the thing you're saying you're not doing to me.
Yep.
But you don't even realize it. And then you're like, hey. So,
and you've got no ground to stand. I mean, this is relevant to some of the stuff we've talked about around NLP. Is that like one of the traps and the pitfalls of NLP is a complete existential relativism, where you can say or do anything to get your result. And this is something you and I both agree is a trap. It's a dangerous pitfall with NLP, because you do start to like lose grounding when you're like, oh, words don't mean anything and holy shit. And
right. But at some point you have
but then there has to be a truth beyond that.
Yeah.
You know,
because if not, then there's nothing in whatever, you know,
yeah.
then you're easy prey. So I thought it was an interesting sort of twist on the thing. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like a nice fine tuning of, yeah, you can have freedom of belief, but you still should have some idea of what you think is better than another thing. Otherwise, you're just going to go, one day I kill you, one day I walk your dog, one day I, you know.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, it seems so obviously flawed that it's like, I wonder what else is going on with
I think
people
someone who
there,
just had their, it's like Ross has said, the guy, he's like, some people just are showing off. They've just realized they're like meta monsters, but with belief systems. Hey, that's a belief system, bro. Robert Anton Wilson says there's no belief system, so you're having a belief system. That's bad. I'm like, no, not quite.
Yeah.
You're like one step away from doing the thing. You know what I mean? Like, I get it.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, it is a belief system. You're right. And it's okay that it's better than telling people to go slaughter in a book, a holy book that tells you where to kill people, which women to enslave, how to rape kids, all that. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's in the book. I'm not making it up. I'm not saying I'm literally pointing it out in the book.
Yeah.
From the Bible, quoting it directly. So it's like, I can make a value judgment on whether or not slavery is good or bad.
Good example.
Sorry, I think slavery is bad. I think books that tell you how to mutilate your slaves is bad. How much you should pay for a human being is bad. Calling it spiritual and holy is bad. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not sorry. You know,
one of my favorite points that you made in the whole project, that the research project that led to this book, one of my favorite things was just pointing out the ridiculousness of a crucifix and the ridiculousness of this. I can't remember. You didn't come up Mediterranean death cults, did you?
No, I think that was Harris.
Oh, really? Okay. So the three big religions can be grouped together as referring to them as the Mediterranean death cults. But to think about Christianity as a religion that is based on human sacrifice is such a what kind of mind fuck. And whether you believe the Jesus thing happened or not, it doesn't matter, because it boils down to this what is going, and listen, I like Gnostic Christianity. Like, I like people who think about these things as metaphors for aspects of the unconscious and all this. I get the archetypal significance of the Bible, and I often reference it and think about it as a pre-existing metaphor structure that lives in my unconscious too. But when you listen to someone like Jordan Peterson is a great example, break down Christianity, and I'm like, I actually love the way he interprets a lot of it, but there has to be a hard line in the sand when you say, okay, that's what you interpret when you read the Bible, but 99% of other people, that's not what they're hearing. That's not how they're interpreting it. And for then you to go, well, yeah, Christianity is right religion because look at the way I've interpreted it.
Right.
Well, yeah, but 99% of other people are not interpreting it that way. They're still hearing women should be kept subjugated and submit to your husbands and shit like that.
And if people ignore that stuff, then you're just, again, mostly the point of the book is we're the ones who decide what we believe. That's the powers in us. All faith healings happen to everybody in every faith because we're the ones who, the magic is in us. Our connection to God is up to us. Call it what you will.
Yeah.
And that we can find that. And everybody's got a different name for the same thing, and then they all fight over it. But that there is a way to say one thing is better than the other. And good tying it back together. That feels like a good place to wrap it up. Are you good? Yeah. I'm gonna go talk to this guy outside. He was gonna trim a tree outside, and he wanted to move a plant. I'm like, fucking move the plant. Like, why are you banging on my door? I said, go away. I'm not now. But why are you still banging on my fucking door? So
I can hear you in there. Whatever you're doing can't possibly be important.
I'll go make nice, because I'll go say, hey man, like, because there's no point in staticky things. But I'll go, look, man, I say don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt me.
Yeah.
But thank you for trimming your tree. So
well, I'm doing a podcast is a pretty good excuse.
Yeah. So anyways, if anybody made it this far, buy my book. Motherfuckers, it got up to number 15 on Amazon's Atheist and number 17 on Religious Humor. So
that's awesome.
Look up Rage of Reason book on Amazon.
Dude, you have every reason to be proud as you can possibly be. So, that is such an accomplishment.
Thank you, sir. Please purchase it for yourself, and
we'll do.
Hold and love it. And thank you for being well. Enjoy Preacher. I'd love to talk to you more about it some other time.
Yeah. We more. I think I may have actually dropped the name. Then you watched the whole series.
I was I thought, because I'd heard it was good, and I watched a movie called Priest, a half of it,
Nope.
which was awful. And I was like, but there's vampires in it. And I was like,
is this it?
What everybody was talking about? So no. So anyways, I found the other one, and it's really good. So enjoy. And I will talk to you later, my friend. I'm glad you're well.
All right.
Give love to the fam.
Peace, love, and NLP, everyone.
Talk to you soon. Later, buddy.
Later.